We're mad scientists looking for mortals to run experiments on. This is our review of Campy Creatures.
Campy Creatures is a hand management, simultaneous action game where you throw down monsters in order to capture mortals and earn the most points.
At the start of the game, each player receives their own deck of 9 classic monsters. There's the Blob, the Mummy, the Invisible Man, and a whole lot more.
The game is played over 3 rounds, with each round consisting of several turns where players throw down monsters simultaneously.
Each round is marked with a location card that gives a bonus at the end of each round.
Each turn begins with revealing mortals. There's teenagers, damsels in distress, assistants, you get it.
Each player decides which monster card they want to play. Each monster card has its own special ability. Once all the players have decided, everyone throws down their monster card simultaneously.
Players take turns collecting mortals based on the numbers on their monster card. If there's a tie, the tie is resolved with the clash-o-meter.
Once all the mortals have been chosen, the process is repeated until the deck runs out of mortals.
Players add up their points at the end of the round and keep track of them by moving their pieces along the board.
Continue repeating this process for all 3 rounds, and then at the end of the 3rd round, the player with the most points wins. Campy Creatures is another game by Keymaster Games. They also do Parks, and Parks is one of my favorite games. So after we played Parks a lot, I started looking up what other games they make, and I saw that it was Campy Creatures. The first thing that you'll notice when you open the box for Campy Creatures, and when you look at the box itself, is that the artwork is amazing, which is just like Parks and all the other Keymaster games.
I agree. I think the artwork is very on brand for Keymaster Games, and I want to say this is probably why I like the game the most, just because, the monster cards have their own little unique details to them, and then even the mortals, right? They're very drawn, a lot of detail, a lot of expressions in their faces. I like how it all comes together.
Another thing you'll notice when you're going through the box for the first time is that there's not a whole lot to the game. It's a smaller box, it's just cards, you have the small player board, but don't let the small amount of pieces and the fact that it's basically just a card game deceive you. There's a lot of strategy to it. It's not as complicated as Parks or Space Park, but this game still has a lot of strategy that you need to think about when you're deciding which monster card to play. The main goal of the game is to gather mortals, and there are different ones that you can get. So you can get the Damsel, which is worth 6 points. You can get Teenagers, which add up, and then at the end, whoever has the most gets 7 points or 4 points. But then you also have some that'll give you negative points. So you really need to pick and choose when to play the monster and hope that you're going to pick correctly versus what the other players are doing.
There were times where if you look at the 2 players next to you, right? One can play one on one turn that stops you from doing anything. And then the next turn, someone can stop you from doing something. Or let's just say other people play cards where they get the mortals and then you don't have any to choose from for that turn. So it's like, what do I do?
But don't get discouraged if you end up getting a bad mortal, because on another turn you can play the Invisible Man, which is the number 2 card, so that you can give back one of your captured mortals. So even if you have a -3, towards the end of the game, you can play the 2, and even though you won't pick the best mortal that round maybe, you could still give back one of your negative numbers.
We've played several simultaneous action games. It's still relatively new to me because the big thing that you always have to worry about is how are ties broken? Who goes first when the cards are thrown? Is it the highest number? Is it the lowest? This has an ability. Does that beat this ability? So that being said, I really like how Campy Creatures has their clash-o-meter. We line up our little icons to see who's at the top, who's at the bottom, and whenever there's a tie, you just make the adjustments. Now, there was a little bit too much of a moving around for my liking. However, it's still better than the other ones we played.
The game moves pretty quickly. The box says 2 to 5 players, 20 to 30 minutes. We were playing a 5-player game, and it went pretty quickly, about 20 to 30 minutes, so that's probably about accurate. But you can definitely start off your night with this game, and it won't take too long, and you'll still have time for a follow-up, or maybe even a couple follow-up games.
It seems simple. It's definitely not. However, if you just wanted to play simple, go for the higher cards, play the higher monsters, you can do that. And then when you start strategizing, you're like, okay, he's more likely to play this monster, so let me stop this because he really needs, you can kind of really get into it and think about strategy more. So it's different levels for everyone, however you want to play this game, and it makes it fun all around.
There can also be a lot of luck in this game. The clash-o-meter is a good example. I know it's breaking a tie, but at the same time, it's still who's on top when, and then who plays what card when, so there's still a lot of luck involved in that. And then the mortal deck, as they're being placed, can be a lot of luck. If you're going after certain mortals like the teenagers or the engineers that require you to get certain numbers, and you're not getting the right cards when you're playing certain monsters, then it's the luck of the draw of the mortals. Or let's just say that there are 5 cards drawn and only one of them is positive and all the rest of them are negative, then it's sort of like, well, I don't want to pick any of them, but well, you kind of have to pick some. So there is a little bit of luck there. So it's not entirely your decision as far as when you're planning your strategy, but it's not enough luck to throw off your strategy. You just got to kind of adapt and pivot here and there.
Overall, as far as simultaneous action games go that I've played, I think I like this one the most. I'll give it a 7. Truth be told, I am very bad at this game. I think the multiple times that we played, I've been dead last every time. So maybe I'm not understanding something. Who knows? It's still fun to see all the interesting artwork, you know, front of cards, back of cards. It's great artwork and the mechanics make it fun too. So I think everyone's gonna have fun with it.
Overall, I'm gonna give the game a 7. I definitely love all the artwork, but the mechanics aren't my favorite. But it's still fun to start off the night with this before you get into a more complicated game. So I think it's definitely a game that everyone should try.
And Teresa gives it a 0.
And Juliana gives it a 4. So I guess not everybody will agree with
not everybody.
And that was our review of Campy Creatures.
What'd you think? What's your favorite campy creature? The Invisible Man, the Mummy, Vampire? Let us know in the comments below.
And if you're enjoying our content, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. And if you want to see more Halloween content, check out our description below.
Until next time, I'm Lee.
And I'm Kenny.